Writing the crystal glass exploded across her back with a crack so loud that every person in the restaurant froze in horror. Shards scattered across the polished floor like ice, drinks crashed from tables, and for one impossible second nobody understood what had happened. Then they saw her. A young waitress was lying across the body of a powerful young man, shielding him from the attack that had been meant for him. Blood stained the back of her uniform as she struggled to breathe, yet her arms remained wrapped around him as if protecting a stranger was the most natural thing in the world. Before we continue this emotional journey, if you believe in kindness, forgiveness, hope, and second chances, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs inspiration, and subscribe to our channel to support our growing community. The waitress was named Clara Bennett. At 24 years old, she worked double shifts at a waterfront restaurant in a quiet coastal city. Life had never been generous to her. Her father had passed away when she was a child, and her mother had spent years battling illness. Clara carried responsibilities that seemed far too heavy for someone her age. Every paycheck disappeared into medical bills, rent, groceries, and the endless expenses that followed hardship like a shadow. Yet despite everything she endured, Clara had developed a reputation for something rare. She was kind. Not the kind of kindness people displayed when life was easy, but the kind that survived disappointment, exhaustion, and heartbreak. Customers often left the restaurant smiling because of her warmth. Elderly visitors requested her section. Single parents thanked her for making their children feel special. She possessed a gift for seeing humanity where others saw inconvenience. That afternoon began like any other sunny day. The restaurant overlooked sparkling blue water, and sunlight streamed through enormous windows. Tourists filled the dining room while servers hurried between tables carrying trays of food. Clara had been working since early morning and was fighting exhaustion after spending most of the previous night helping care for her mother. Around lunchtime, an unusual silence swept through part of the restaurant. Several black luxury vehicles had stopped outside. People glanced through the windows. Even employees exchanged nervous looks. Everyone knew who had arrived. The city's most feared businessman, Victor Lancaster, rarely appeared in public. Newspapers called him an entrepreneur. Rumors painted a darker picture. Some believed he controlled vast criminal networks operating behind legitimate businesses. No one knew the full truth, but everyone understood one thing: powerful people avoided crossing him. Victor himself did not enter the restaurant that day. Instead, his son, Julian Lancaster, walked inside accompanied by several security personnel. Julian carried a reputation almost as intimidating as his father's. Wealth, influence, and privilege surrounded him wherever he went. Stories about arrogance and recklessness followed him constantly. Many people assumed he was simply another spoiled heir who had never experienced real hardship. When Julian sat down near the center of the dining room, most employees became nervous. Clara simply treated him like any other customer. She greeted him politely, took his order, and returned to work. At first, Julian barely noticed her. His attention remained focused on business documents spread across the table. Yet throughout the afternoon, he observed something unusual. Clara treated every customer exactly the same. She did not become nervous around wealthy people. She did not flatter influential guests. She did not ignore struggling families. Her kindness remained consistent regardless of status. For reasons he could not explain, Julian found himself watching her. Meanwhile, Clara noticed something different about him as well. Beneath the expensive clothing and serious expression, he seemed lonely. Several times she observed him staring through the windows toward the ocean with a sadness that felt strangely genuine. Neither realized their lives were about to collide. The attack happened so quickly that nobody had time to react. A man dressed as an ordinary customer suddenly stood from a nearby table. His movements appeared strange. Clara happened to be walking past carrying a tray of drinks when she noticed something in his hand. A heavy glass bottle. The man raised it high above his head and charged directly toward Julian. The bottle was aimed at the back of Julian's skull. Security personnel were too far away. Customers screamed. Time seemed to slow. Without thinking, Clara dropped her tray and threw herself toward Julian. The bottle struck her instead. The impact shattered glass across her back and shoulders. Pain exploded through her body. She collapsed onto Julian as the attacker was tackled by security guards seconds later. The restaurant erupted into chaos. Julian stared at Clara in disbelief. Blood stained her uniform. Tiny fragments of glass glittered across her skin. She had risked her life for someone she didn't even know. Paramedics arrived quickly. Clara was rushed to the hospital while Julian followed closely behind. News of the incident spread throughout the city before sunset. People praised the brave waitress who had protected a wealthy stranger. Others questioned why she would take such a risk. Clara herself had no answer. She simply knew someone was in danger. And she acted. At the hospital, doctors removed dozens of glass fragments from her back. Fortunately, none had caused permanent damage. The injuries were painful but not life-threatening. When Clara finally regained consciousness, she expected to see her mother beside her bed. Instead, she found Julian sitting quietly in a chair near the window. Sunlight illuminated the room. For several seconds neither spoke. Then something unexpected happened. Julian's eyes filled with tears. Not dramatic tears. Not attention-seeking tears. The silent tears of someone carrying years of hidden pain. For perhaps the first time in his life, someone had protected him without wanting anything in return. Throughout his childhood, people had approached him because of money, influence, or fear. Loyalty had always come with conditions. Clara's sacrifice had shattered something inside him. Over the following weeks, Julian visited frequently. At first Clara felt uncomfortable. She assumed the visits were motivated by guilt or obligation. But gradually she realized something deeper was happening. Julian genuinely cared. The more they talked, the more each discovered how wrong their assumptions had been. Clara learned that Julian had spent his entire life trapped beneath the weight of his family name. Every friendship was questioned. Every relationship felt uncertain. Every achievement was dismissed as a product of privilege. Julian learned about Clara's struggles caring for her mother. He learned about overdue bills, sleepless nights, and sacrifices nobody noticed. Most importantly, he learned what real courage looked like. It wasn't power. It wasn't wealth. It wasn't influence. It was a tired young woman choosing compassion when life had given her countless reasons to become bitter. Their friendship grew stronger. Yet not everyone approved. Many people believed Clara had saved Julian hoping for financial rewards. Rumors spread across social media. Some accused her of manipulating the situation for personal gain. The accusations hurt deeply. Clara had spent her entire life trying to do the right thing. Now strangers questioned her integrity. The pressure became overwhelming. Eventually she stopped reading comments online. But Julian saw the damage being done. For the first time, he publicly defended someone else instead of protecting himself. He organized a charity event supporting hospital workers and invited Clara as the guest of honor. During the event he openly acknowledged her bravery and kindness. The gesture changed public perception. Yet a far greater challenge was approaching. Months after the attack, federal investigators launched a major inquiry into businesses connected to Victor Lancaster. The city exploded with speculation. Journalists camped outside buildings. News stations covered developments continuously. As investigations intensified, Julian found himself facing painful truths about his family's empire. Some rumors were real. Some innocent people had been harmed. Some wealth had been built through corruption. Julian experienced a crisis unlike anything he had ever faced. He loved his father. But he could no longer ignore reality. The easy path would have been silence. Instead, inspired by Clara's example, he chose courage. He cooperated with investigators and began helping dismantle harmful operations connected to his family's network. The decision cost him dearly. Relationships fractured. Old allies turned against him. Business associates viewed him as a traitor. For the first time, Julian experienced the consequences of choosing principles over comfort. During those difficult months, Clara remained a steady source of support. She never told him what decisions to make. She simply reminded him that doing what was right mattered more than protecting appearances. Those words changed everything. As time passed, reform spread through businesses previously connected to corruption. Employees kept their jobs under new leadership. Communities received funding for schools, healthcare programs, and neighborhood improvements. What began as one act of courage inside a restaurant gradually created positive change across an entire city. Meanwhile, Clara faced her own miracle. A medical foundation established through one of the new community programs helped fund treatment for her mother. For years, financial barriers had limited options. Now specialists could provide care previously beyond reach. Her mother's health slowly improved. The woman who had spent years fighting illness began smiling again. Clara often sat beside her during sunny afternoons, grateful for moments she once feared would never come. 1 year after the attack, the restaurant hosted a community celebration. The waterfront sparkled beneath bright daylight. Families gathered. Children played. Local musicians performed. The atmosphere felt hopeful. During the event, city leaders recognized Clara for her extraordinary courage. As applause echoed across the waterfront, she felt embarrassed by the attention. In her mind, she had simply done what anyone should do. But those who knew the full story understood something important. Acts of kindness rarely remain isolated. They ripple outward. One brave decision can influence countless lives. Before we reach the conclusion of this story, take a moment to leave a meaningful comment. Have you ever witnessed an act of kindness that changed someone's life? Or do you believe one courageous decision can create a chain of hope for others? Share your thoughts with our community below. As the celebration continued, Julian stepped onto the stage. The crowd expected a formal speech. Instead, he spoke honestly about mistakes, accountability, and redemption. He acknowledged the harm caused by choices made in the past. He expressed gratitude for those who believed people could change. Then he looked toward Clara. Not with admiration for a hero. Not with gratitude toward a savior. But with respect for a person who had reminded him what humanity looked like. Because in the end, the greatest gift Clara gave him was not physical protection. It was moral courage. She had shown him that character mattered more than power. Compassion mattered more than reputation. And second chances mattered more than fear. Years later, people still remembered the day a poor waitress threw herself in front of danger. They remembered the shattered glass, the bravery, and the headlines. But those who understood the full story remembered something even more important. They remembered how one selfless act transformed 2 lives. A struggling waitress discovered that her kindness had more power than she ever imagined. A wealthy young man discovered that redemption begins when we choose truth over comfort. And an entire community learned that hope often arrives through ordinary people making extraordinary choices. The sunlight slowly reflected across the water as families laughed and celebrated around them. There were no grand endings, no perfect lives, and no magical solutions. There were simply people trying to become better than they had been yesterday. Sometimes that is enough. Sometimes that is how healing begins. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Remember that kindness is never wasted, courage can appear in the most unexpected people, and one moment of selfless love can change lives far beyond what we can see.